Everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the top 6 reasons why you should definitely be growing zinnias. Before I share with you my top 6 reasons why you should be growing zinnias in your summer garden, I'm going to ask everybody to please like and subscribe to my channel. Helps me grow my channel, helps me reach more gardeners just like you, and helps me learn from you all when you leave those questions and comments in the description below. So let's get to it. Just want to let you know, those of you that are new to my channel, I happen to garden in a zone 6 here in mid-Missouri. I happen to be a master gardener, but that doesn't really mean anything except that I've studied gardening. I know a fair amount about gardening, all kinds of things, but I am constantly learning. I'm constantly trying new things. I want to learn. I don't want to ever stop learning and experiencing the wonder of nature and growing plants. So thank you guys so much for being here. So let's get to it. All right, I'm going to give you my top 6 reasons why you need to grow zinnias, and then we're going to go out in the garden and you're going to get to watch me plant some zinnia seeds today. First and foremost, zinnias are, in my opinion, the easiest flowers to grow from seed. I know that back in the day when I started gardening many years ago, the thought of growing a plant from a seed freaked me out, really scared me and intimidated me. So if you've never had a chance to grow any kind of plant from seed, I'm going to encourage you to give zinnias a try because they could not be easier, and you're going to feel really confident and accomplished when you have success with zinnias. Reason number 2, zinnias are so affordable. You need a packet of seeds. This particular packet of seeds here from Johnny's, one of my favorite seed companies, has 50 seeds in it. 50 plants for the price of $2 or $3. Really a great investment. Number 3 is that zinnias come in endless colors, sizes, and varieties. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the most common varieties that you could consider growing in your garden. So there are zinnias in the Benary Giant series. These zinnias get tall. They get 4 feet tall and they produce really big, beautiful 4-inch wide flowers. I have grown Benary Giants for several years and they are super reliable. Let's see, if you don't want to grow something quite that tall, Zahara, that's a series, and they only get about 14 inches tall. The Oklahoma series is tried and true. Oklahoma series, in fact, I'm going to plant some of those today. Let me grab my seeds over here. I'm going to grow Oklahoma White, and again, I bought these from Johnny Seeds, but lots and lots of seed companies sell the Oklahoma variety, and they get about 30 to 40 inches tall, so they're on the medium range. There's another variety of zinnias that I like to grow. They're called the cactus variety, and they have really interesting flower blooms. And let me bring this one in here. If you can see, I grew these last year, and actually I'm going to grow them again this year. This is from Baker Creek, Pink Senorita. There's a Sonora variety, but you can see on the packet there how the flower petals are pointed at the ends or cactus-like. I've got some leftover seed from last year, but also I'm going to try this year. I saved some seed, and that's another great thing in terms of affordability. If you save your seed from your flowers, let some of your flowers at the end of the season go really, really brown and crusty, and save the seeds, you've got free seed for the next year. So if you're wanting to grow them on the smaller side, you want to look for the Lilliput, or I think it's called Thumbelina variety of zinnia seeds, and they stay on the dwarf side. So if, let's say, you're not going to grow your zinnias in the landscape in a raised bed, if you don't have much space, but you have containers, pots, etc., look for the dwarf varieties of zinnias, and you will be very, very happy that you did. Number 4, zinnias are highly deer and insect resistant. I live out here on 10 acres and the deer have never disturbed my zinnias at all. The rabbits have left them alone. The squirrels don't bother them. So if you want a critter resistant, beautiful summer flowering annuals, you need to consider zinnias for your garden. Speaking of critters, the other great benefit of growing zinnias, especially the open ones, the single flowering type, is that pollinators really will flock to your zinnias. Mine are just covered in butterflies throughout the summer season. Number 5, zinnias are phenomenal cut and come again flowers. And what we mean by that is that the more you cut zinnias, the more they will come again and produce new flowers over and over for weeks in the garden. I happen to grow them primarily for cut flowers. I bring them in the house, create a beautiful little bouquets, floral arrangements. I give a lot of them away as little gifts to other people. So cut and come again is definitely the way to go in my garden. And finally, number 6, the reason why you need to grow zinnias in your summer garden is because they provide flower power for weeks and weeks and weeks. When should you plant your zinnias? Well, you can direct sow the seeds right out into your garden as soon as the threat of frost is past. In my Zone 6 mid-Missouri garden, we tend to want to plant out our zinnia seeds the first week or two in May. So I'm a little behind the curve. I typically get mine in the ground the first week of May, and here we are the first week of June, but that's okay. If you follow my videos, you have been seeing me growing, planting for the entire month of May. And so my zinnia seeds got pushed to the background, but they're going to go out in the garden today. So now that I've given you all 6 great reasons on why you need to include zinnias in your garden, I want to share with you all what varieties I'm going to be planting out in the garden today, and then we're going to get out in the garden and put these seeds in the ground. All right, so this is my plan. I am going to be growing a beautiful floret flower zinnia seeds called Alpenglow. Bring that into the screen. Hope you can see that. They are a beautiful, let me read you the description. What does she say? This subtle romantic mix includes the softest range of creamy linen, pale peach, and dusty rose flowers. One of the reasons why I chose this variety is when we go out into the raised bed garden, you're going to see I am growing some celosia. And celosia this year, I think it's flamingo flower or flamingo feather is the variety. And they're a soft, pale pink. And I think that they're going to pair beautifully with these zinnias in bouquets. So that's kind of my thinking behind choosing this variety. Also, floret seeds, they are pricier than your average seed from a big box store, but you're going to get very, very unique flowers that you cannot find in your big box stores. And if you hold on to the seeds at the end of the season, you don't have to buy seeds again the next year. You can just replant seeds from this year's crop. So Alpenglow is going in. I talked to you about the giant varieties, the Benaries giant varieties, and I've got a couple of packets from Johnny Seeds, Benary Giant White, and Oklahoma White. I'll try to put some pictures up on the screen of both of these. I haven't decided until I get out there if I'm going to do the giants or the Oklahoma. The Oklahoma don't get quite as tall. And the flowers are a little bit smaller, but super prolific. I've grown Oklahoma variety zinnias for years and years. Stellar. You can't go wrong with Oklahoma series. Pink Senorita, I showed you this earlier. This is a cactus variety zinnia. And I like this because it's a salmony pink. And again, if you look at the petals, they're a little bit different than other types of zinnias in that they're a little bit pointy. So I just like that texture in the garden. So these are definitely going to go out. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use the leftover seed from my packet or if I'm going to use my save seed from the ones that I grew in my garden last year. I'll make my mind up once I get out in the garden. Okay, that's it. That's what I'm after today, getting these zinnia seeds finally in the garden. Let's get this camera turned around and go get to work. So the very first thing on my top 6 reasons why you should be growing zinnias was because it's easy and could not be easier. Look at, we don't need a lot of supplies. I've got a kneeling pad here. I've got, of course, my seeds. I have a little hand rake to rough up the soil and a trowel. And then I brought this along for those of you especially that are new at starting seeds. Sometimes when you're reading the seed packet, it says for zinnias, A quarter of an inch is all the deeper that they need to go. And so what I've done for myself and some of my friends that are new to gardening is I said, you know, get a chopstick or something, or even take a ruler out so you can get acquainted with and familiar with what is a quarter of an inch. And it is not much at all. And so what I did was I just marked on my little chopstick, you know, quarter inch, half inch, full inch. I'll bring the camera in close so that you can see what I've already got growing in this raised bed. This is 4 foot wide by 8 foot long, and I have designated this bed as a cut flower bed for this year. So I'll let you know what's growing in here, but I want you to know that the Alpenglow zinnia seed from Floret is going to go on this end of the bed. And that is strategic. When you are growing anything, you need to think about what is the mature height of that particular flower, plant, veggie, whatever. That faces south, so the sun rises in the east to the west, so lots of full sun. Zinnias have to have loads and loads of full sun. They love hot, hot, hot weather. This particular variety of zinnia gets, let's see what the seed packet says, 48 to 56 inches high. Gets tall. So I don't want to plant something super tall on the south end of the bed and short things here, because as the sun moves through the sky, I wouldn't want super tall things to shade the things here. So you're going to see my celosia and my feverfew that's already in the bed. They're shorter, and then these beautiful tall Alpenglow zinnias are going to be on the north end where they can get plenty of sunlight, but they're not going to crowd anything out or create too many shadows for the other flowers I'm trying to grow. So let's take a look at what is already here. So you can see this is that celosia that I was talking about. I think it's flamingo feather, and it has variegated blooms, pale pink to a little bit of a darker pink. So do you understand now why, when you looked at that Alpenglow picture on the screen, how I think that those plus these in an arrangement are going to be very complementary? Let's look at this. This is Gomphrena. So you see these here on the end? That's Gomphrena. Gomphrena is, I think this is carmine. They're just starting to flower. Bright pink, and they get very tall too. So I have them in each of these 3 beds on the north end, so that if they need some support from that cattle panel, they're going to have it. You can also see I have my drip irrigation set up. Super important. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in really close. So depending upon the type of zinnias you're growing, you want to make sure you read the seed packet, and it will tell you how far you should space your seeds and plants apart. These Alpenglow get large, as I mentioned, right? 48 inches plus. They get big. So I need to give them lots of space, but I want to increase the odds that they're going to germinate well. So I am going to place 1 or 2 seeds, maybe 1, at each of these emitters. Do you see that little hole? That's where the water comes out. So I'm going to roughly place them in this bed. And then once they germinate, which only should take about 3 to 5 days, then I will let them get about, I would say, at least 2 or 3 inches tall. And then I will pop out every other one. So then eventually they'll be placed a foot apart and have plenty of space to grow. All right, it's time to get these Alpenglow seeds in the ground. What you might notice about this particular raised bed is that it has a lot of leaf mulch on it, and that is a practice that I have been doing for years. In fact, Joe Lample from Joe Gardener, if you don't follow him online, he is a veggie expert, really an expert in organic gardening, and I follow his practice. And so what happens is in fall, after all of our leaves are off the trees, we take a certain number of those leaves and we have a really fine shredder. We shred them up, and I cover every single one of my garden beds throughout the winter. Very good for soil health. And of course, as you can imagine, leaf litter or leaf mold is an organic, natural thing that works back into your soil and just continues to improve it year after year. So that is wonderful. I've also used leaf litter as a mulch. In fact, if you look at my celosia and my feverfew, I mean, there are a few weeds in there, but really, I left so much of the leaf litter there when I planted those that it acts as a great mulch as well. So I'm just going to get to it. Pretty simple. I shared with you what I'm going to do. Now let me do it. And then we're going to go to a different garden bed, not in my raised bed garden, but we've got another raised bed garden box for cut flowers on the south side of the house. So all I have left to do is just this piece of the drip, and you can see I need to obviously go ahead and pull out some of these weeds that have started, get them out of the way. We don't want them to compete with our new little seedlings. Okay, so I'm just going to move back some of that leaf mulch so I can get down to that good soil. So we're heading to the south side of the house where we're going to sow those other zinnia seeds in a little raised bed box. But oh my goodness, we have to pause here. You see that? Oh my goodness, isn't that adorable? So just a few days ago, I had the sweetest little friend come over with her family. She's 4 years old, and she created a darling little fairy garden right under this beautiful magnolia tree. So I've got my nailing pad, my little hand rake, my little chopstick measures for seed depth, and I have determined I'm going to grow 2 different varieties of zinnias. I'm going to grow the Baker Creek Pink Senorita. I grew these last year in my cut flower garden down where we just were with the other ones. I am going to put them in the back row because they get about 4 feet tall, which is about as tall as this stake, maybe a little bit taller. So I want them to be in the back. And then in the front row, I'm going to go step down with the Oklahoma White zinnias, and they get about 2.5 to 3 feet tall. So they'll stay a little shorter. I'm growing white because if you followed any of my videos earlier this spring, you saw I planted dahlias, and I chose some dahlia varieties that have kind of lilac and white in them. And so I thought, again, I'm always thinking about using these as cut flowers, what things would be complementary and go together. And I think having some white zinnias with some of those dahlias that I grow that have white undertones or predominantly white, I think that would be a nice contrast. Same exact process as I showed you before. Whew, so It's already getting hot out here in my mid-Missouri garden here in the early part of June. It's going to be 90 degrees today, and so I snuck around the corner from where we just planted the Senorita and the Oklahoma White zinnias in that south-facing bed. Snuck around here so I could get in the shade and share a couple of other things with you all before we end today's video about zinnias. A couple of things. So soil. Zinnias aren't too fussy about soil. They like it warm to germinate, so that's important. And it's plenty warm in my garden, so that shouldn't be a problem. They take decent soil. So in my raised bed gardens, as you know, those garden beds have the same soil in them from year to year, except it's really not the same because every spring, sometimes I do it in the fall, I amend those beds with lots of compost. I compost things here on site, but I also will purchase compost because I never have enough of it for all the different garden beds. So don't forget, if you are growing in an established bed or raised bed garden, you want to enhance that soil from year to year with some good quality compost, maybe some fresh potting mix so that it's light and pliable and those quick growing summer annuals can get off to a really good start. I'm going to be watering those in, as I mentioned earlier, just like the other ones. I will be watering them daily until I am convinced that they have germinated, and they're fast to germinate. So hopefully, I would say in the next 5 days, they will be up and sprouted. I hope today convinced you to try zinnias in your garden. It is not too late. It is just the first couple of days of June, but it's only going to take these maybe 2 full months to start to flower. And the beauty of these types of plants is that once they start flowering, my zinnias flower all the way until a heavy frost in the fall. I'll have zinnias growing well into September in my mid-Missouri garden. So until next time, I wish everybody out there happy gardening.